Hello and welcome to this week's series of 5-Minute Connects. My name is Jake Ford. I'm one of the pastors on staff at Revolve Bible Church. I wanted to thank you for tuning in and watching this video. I hope that it is helpful to you, and I hope the videos that follow are a great aid in your Christian walk. This week, I wanted to discuss evangelism. It's a very timely topic to be talking about as we're right in the middle of a crisis with the COVID-19 global pandemic. Now, if you're watching this and you're a Christian, you have the hope of Christ. You have the eternal living hope, and you know where you're headed. You know that this life is not all that there is, but the best life is yet to come. But you certainly have friends, family members, neighbors who don't have that. Thus, the need to evangelize is great. And I want us to camp in 2 Corinthians chapter 5 and allow Paul to exhort us this week to evangelize. And with that, we find that in this section, Paul addresses and answers several facets to evangelism that we can't miss, and that I hope are a great encouragement for us this week to go out and evangelize. The first is what evangelism actually is. Secondly, who is involved in this ministry of evangelism. Thirdly, how we evangelize. And fourthly, why should we evangelize? And that part I'll break into 2 days. Today, I want to look at what evangelism is. And Paul uses really one word to just sum up the core of evangelism, and that is reconciliation. Between verses 18 through 20, he mentions reconciliation 5 times. This is a central theme that Paul is conveying to the church at Corinth. The word reconciliation means to bring peace between two raging parties that are at war with one another. And Paul here is referring to God, and he's referring to mankind. A holy God being at war with sinful, depraved man. And what Paul says in verse 18, which is astonishing, is that there is reconciliation through Christ between God and man. And this is what Paul summarizes how that this is even possible, how that peace with God is possible with mankind. He summarizes this in verse 21 of 2 Corinthians 5. He, God, made him, Christ, who knew no sin, the sinless God-man, to be sin on our behalf. Upon Calvary's cross, Jesus bore our sin. And it's not that Jesus committed every sin of the elect, of believers, but the Father treated him, condemned him, punished him as if he did. He poured out his wrath upon his Son. Jesus took it upon himself, bearing the wrath we should have bore, paying the penalty of sin that we should have paid, death, and rose victorious, clearing our debt, satisfying the wrath of God, saving us from God and from death. That is the penalty of sin. But the verse continues, so that we might become the righteousness of God in him. In Christ we have been given his righteousness, which was accredited in his perfect life, so that we can boldly approach God and be no longer an enemy, but his child and his friend. This is reconciliation. This is the gospel. This is the good news. This is the message that we are to bring into the lives of those who aren't in Christ. The question is, who is to be a part of this ministry? Who must be a part of this ministry? Is this optional for the Christian, or a suggestion, or a mandate? Tune in tomorrow as we're going to look at who is involved in evangelism.